The Substance seems to be the surprise film of the weekend. I haven't seen a lot of chatter surrounding this film, and not even from the usual people I see it from. The way I kind of view movies like this is I have this inner circle of Letterboxd mutuals and other film people I follow on different social media sites, and they're always talking about movies like this. I usually have a good idea of what is being released every single weekend, but this film has kind of reached that outer circle of people I know. The people that maybe go to the movies about a dozen times a year. Now, I was aware of this film mostly hearing the buzz coming out of all the film festivals. I knew that Demi Moore's performance was getting high praise, and so I was excited to see this, and I gotta say, this film really outdid any expectations I had going into it. Now, the best way to describe this film is a comedic body horror. The plot revolves Demi Moore kind of playing this meta version of her own personal life. In the movie, her character has won an Academy Award, but is sort of a fading star. And that's not to say anything negative about Demi Moore's real-life career, but clearly she is an inspired choice for this role, as an older woman who is struggling to find her place in the current entertainment industry. So in this film, she is offered this substance that allows her to create this younger version of herself, played by Margaret Qualley, who I gotta say is having a great year coming off of Kinds of Kindness. That film allows her to play multiple roles, which all of them she absolutely crushed, but both her and Moore in this film have some of the most phenomenal performances I've seen all year. I think the biggest talking point that I've seen social media talk about is just how horrific the body horror is in this film, and I gotta say, it is pretty bad. And when I say bad, I mostly just mean interesting, provocative. As someone who just watches a lot of stuff like this, including body horror, but really just horror in general, this is in no way near the worst thing I've ever seen. I can give you a list if you're looking for that. But I think for a lot of people who are kind of in that category, like I said, who maybe go to the theater a dozen times a year, this is going to be a stretch for them. It's going to be a love it or hate it kind of thing. But with any body horror movie, it's definitely trying to get this reaction out of you. And while it mostly got that reaction out of me, I was also very much enjoying just hearing the reaction from a mostly sold out theater. The final act of this film just goes completely off the rails. And as you're watching the movie, like from the very start, it's already pretty horrific. There are a lot of just disturbing images, and even the plot and emotions involved in every scene are really dark. But then we get to the third act, and it just goes even farther. So to hear a combination of disgust and also laughs in my theater, it was a great experience, and I would encourage anyone, if you are going to see this movie, try to go see it with as many people as possible. But that being said, I certainly hope that the lasting effect of this film isn't just the body horror itself, because I think this film is really trying to touch on something quite deep. Like I said, with Demi Moore playing this fictionalized version of someone she is probably familiar with, trying to fit into this society that really praises looks above anything else, especially as a female. You know, there's a lot of older males that kind of grow up in the entertainment industry, and even until their 70s, 80s, and 90s, they're still finding leading roles. But for women, it is so much more rare, and the standards that we have for them are impossible to compete with. And so for me, some of the most dark and horrific moments of this film were the moments where Demi Moore was just giving this raw performance, completely breaking down with this body dysmorphia that she's dealing with, literally competing with a younger version of herself, and it's truly haunting. It does at times feel like this episode of Black Mirror, which is a comparison I don't often like to make with films, but I can't really help it because the way this universe plays out, it is this almost futuristic day after tomorrow vibe, where there are some things that feel really relatable, but then there's just a few little things that are off. Other clear inspirations that I found were coming from Stanley Kubrick and David Cronenberg. Obviously Cronenberg with the body horror, but I really felt Kubrick in a lot of the set pieces of this film. It's beautifully shot with a lot of long hallways and symmetrical camera angles. I felt like it did a great job showing a vast empty space when we needed the characters to feel like that, and then at other times giving us extreme close-up of really intimate physical performances given by so many of the cast. Dennis Quaid, who I haven't mentioned yet, giving a really bizarre performance, and I haven't seen Reagan, but I can only assume this is the exact opposite of what they asked him to do in that film. But he plays this slimy agent, and there's these moments where the camera is really zoomed in on him chewing food, and it just adds to this level of disgust you have towards his character. And so I think the filmmaking here is absolutely brilliant in really using every single element of movie making to make you feel something towards these characters. And so while this isn't a movie I would recommend to everyone, because I do think people are going to have strong negative reactions to it, I would say if you are down for a feminist horror film, this is one of the best you're going to see this year. But those are my thoughts on The Substance, and I would love to hear yours. So, have you seen it? If you have, please comment below what you thought, and I will see you next time.